We spent a lot of time talking about the feet on this podcast, but today we have two statements we want to share with you that may be a little bit controversial. We're going to dive into this conversation once we cue our introduction. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Exercise is Health podcast, brought to you by Muscle Activation Schaumburg. We're your hosts, Charlie
and Julie.
And today we're discussing the feet. And specifically, we have two controversial statements that we are going to be making about the feet. But don't worry, we're going to explain what we mean by these statements and teach you how to apply them to your workouts and to your life. We want to let you know that if you want to start taking action on what we're discussing today, that's exactly what we can help you with at Muscle Activation Schaumburg using muscle activation techniques. And all you have to do to see our availability and get on our schedule is go to our website, www.matschaumburg.com, click the big green button that says Get Started, and you can schedule yourself for your initial MAT consultation and assessment. So today we want to share two controversial statements about the feet, and they're controversial for a few reasons. One is they fly against a lot of what the mainstream shoe wear, foot specialist industry has to say about the feet. And the other thing is they're controversial because they put the responsibility on you. They don't allow you to kind of like blame everything else that's going around you in your life, because of your feet, your genetics, because, I got this, foot thing from my mom or anything like that. Like, we say, hey, this thing that you're experiencing, this is changeable, and it's your responsibility to change it. But don't worry, we're not just going to leave you hanging there. We're going to teach you how to go about changing it. But these two controversial statements, if you can sit with us through them and really take to heart what we're saying and start to apply what we're saying, they can have a dramatic impact on how your feet feel and how your feet function and how the rest of your body feels and functions.
That's right, Charlie. So the first controversial statement we have for you today is that your feet should not need supportive shoes or inserts. In fact, our bodies come, like you're born with the supports and all the supports that your foot should need. And the supports that your foot needs is your muscles. So I know a lot of times in, what Charlie was just saying, like in the shoe industry and in the foot industry or the running, walking, all these things are talking about, hey, you need supports. In fact, we've had clients come in and say, this professional told me I should never, ever, ever walk around barefoot. And we're like, what? But what's interesting is that shoe supports and insoles are so popular and common because they certainly serve a purpose. We're just saying that your body actually comes with the supporters that your feet need. It's just that we don't really spend enough time working on improving and keeping the supporters that your body comes with strong and healthy.
Exactly. So here's the thing, is some people actually have structural issues going on with their feet. And if that's you, we're not necessarily talking to you in this conversation. We're talking to everybody else that structurally their feet are pretty okay. And I'm not talking about pretty okay like, I got high arches, so I'm out of it. No, if you got high arches, you got flat arches, you're part of this conversation. I'm talking about like other structural issues going on with the feet. High arches, flat arches, whatever kind of arches, all right? This applies to you, all right? Because the thing within your body that is designed to support your arches exactly how your arches already are is your muscles. But the thing that nobody goes doing to try to help the support of their feet is strengthen their muscles. We're all focused on using stuff outside of our body, whether it's insoles, whether it's supportive shoes, things like that, to try to help our feet feel better, okay? And while they may help our feet feel better, they are not helping our feet function better, all right? And so what that means is while your feet may feel better, if they're not functioning better, other areas of your body are going to have to keep up their function or start functioning overtime in order to make up for the fact that your feet still aren't functioning well. And that's when we see time and again that when people start to wear more supportive shoes, when they're wearing orthotics or other type of inserts, their knees start bugging them. their hips start bugging them, their low back starts bugging them, all the way up to their neck starts bugging them, because all these areas of the body are having to pick up for the fact that, yeah, their feet may be feeling better, but their feet aren't functioning better because their muscles, the things that are supposed to be supporting their feet, aren't actually strong, aren't actually working well enough to do that. And so because of that, they're relying on these external shoes, inserts, things like that.
Now, Charlie, I want to take that even to the next layer, that if you wear inserts or insoles long enough, not only are your feet going to not function better, they're going to start getting weaker and function worse, because supports are supporting what the muscles should be doing. So like if you think about like any other area of your body, we know like, hey, if I never work that area, it will get weak. So if I want to keep it strong, I need to regularly work it. When we see people chronically wearing supports and inserts in their shoes, that's what happens to their muscles. They just don't realize it because it just turns into, oh, well, now I can never take off supportive shoes. That's why I have house shoes and I have home shoes and outside shoes and this supportive shoe, and they never go without shoes. So they never actually feel that their muscles are getting weaker. But again, one of the biggest negative side effects is not only your feet going to become more and more and more dysfunctional and weaker, is that there's chain reactions that happen up and down the system. Now, one of the interesting things too is that I think the most common thing we think about with our feet is the arch, right? That big arch. But Charlie and I, and anyone that looks at feet sometimes, you will see that there is more than just an arch in your foot. We've seen people with like a little tiny baby arch thingy under their toes, and a toe separator, and a toe bringer together, and all the things. So all the motions that happen in your feet, more than just the arch, are supported by muscles. And so there isn't any one insert or any support that you're like, well, I definitely need this one because there's not muscle there to support it. Every motion that your foot would go through in a normal like environment is going to have the opportunity to be supported by muscle. It's just, does it have the opportunity to be supported by muscle, or have we put in this deconditioning too long or for too frequently for the muscles to be strong enough to actually provide support?
Exactly, and this leads us right into controversial statement number 2, which is your feet probably are not ready to not have supportive shoes or insoles. So the first statement is that those things are unnecessary, and then the follow-up, the second controversial statement is like, yeah, but your feet probably aren't actually ready to not have those. Why? Because more than likely your foot muscles are not currently strong enough or well conditioned enough to be able to support your feet and your body weight and control all the things that they need to be able to control throughout all the different things that you do throughout your day. That's why more than likely you feel better when you're wearing your supportive shoes or your supportive insoles. In fact, a telltale sign that your muscles are not strong enough to do that is that you do feel better when you're wearing thick and supportive shoes. You do feel better when you're wearing your insoles or orthotics because they are relieving your muscles of having to take on the stress of whatever it is that you are doing throughout your day. So if that's the case for you, that is a telltale sign that your feet are not ready to not get rid of those things because your muscles are not strong enough yet. Your muscles are not well conditioned enough yet. But this doesn't mean, and this is the, like, right now we're kind of at a fork in the road of like, okay, what do we do? Like, if you're hearing this right now and you're like, okay, well, my feet do feel better when I wear my insoles. My feet do feel better when I wear my supportive shoes. Does that mean turn left and I have to wear those things always and forever? And we're saying, no, actually turn right. There's something that you can do about it, because just like any area of your body that has muscles, that area of the body can get stronger, it can start to function better, and you may find that over time, you will not need as much or any external support from your shoes or from your inserts.
That's right. I know a lot of times when we talk about that first point, we're like, hey, your feet shouldn't need support. Your feet shouldn't need supportive shoes or inserts. Then the complete opposite is what people think. Like, oh, so Julie and Charlie say everyone should wear barefoot shoes. We're not saying that. But we are saying, hey, if you do wear barefoot shoes, that's probably the most unsupportive and uninsertish shoe that you probably could wear. But again, most people have not trained their feet, aka their muscles of their feet aren't ready for that. And that's why A lot of people do feel better with the inserts, with the insoles. So there is a process to getting you to be able to have less support in your shoe and still feel good. Because remember, we want to have your feet as strong and functional as possible, but we also know that when you change your shoe and you add support, it changes up the chain. So it affects your knees very heavily, your hips and your low back, your whole spine. I've even seen it go up into people's shoulders because everything is going to change when you change one part of the system in a big way, like adding a shoe insert. So the biggest thing we need to talk about is like, how do you take baby steps towards needing less support? And the answer isn't like jump off a cliff and just wear barefoot shoes and be in pain all the time. That's not the right answer, but the right answer is to start progressing yourself towards less and less support, because that will be a sign that your system is getting healthier and stronger just by changing your feet.
Exactly. So it's kind of like if somebody says, oh, well, you should be able to squat your body weight. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. So, I'm going to go and immediately try to squat my body weight. It's like, no. Actually, there's a lot of steps between not squatting your body weight and squatting your body weight that can help you to be able to squat your body weight. Not saying that you need to squat your body weight, but just, as an example here, because we're talking about progressing the strength of your muscles, and the muscles that we happen to be talking about are the ones of your feet. So where should you start? Well, in our book, the number one place to start is with muscle activation techniques. Why? Because we're going to be able to identify which muscles are working well with your feet and which ones are not working well. And if you jump to step number 2 without doing step number 1, what ends up happening is you end up furthering the compensation of your feet. You end up potentially creating more issues with your feet because you are, step number 2, doing foot exercises to strengthen your feet, but you are only able to access the foot muscles that are already strong and functioning well, and all the dysfunctional muscles that you are not able to access, the ones that are creating the issues, the ones that are largely the reason why you may be needing supportive shoes, why you may be needing insoles. They're not getting the stimulus. They are not getting the strengthening benefits that the ones that already are functioning well are. And so what you end up doing is creating this greater separation between the muscles that are working well and are strong and the ones that aren't working well and aren't strong, furthering compensation throughout your system. So step number 1 is muscle activation techniques. Figure out where within your feet, which foot muscles your brain is not talking to. Reestablish that communication so your brain can talk to your muscles, tell them to contract, and you can get that practice. You can get those reps of like, okay, yeah, I can access these foot muscles. I can actually feel my feet moving. I can actually feel all the muscles of my toes squeezing. And then when you go to step number 2, now you have a full foot full of muscles to be working with.
Yeah, I know. I think feet is probably one of the top places we work with people. And there's just so many muscles and movements of your feet that people never even consider. And they are so impactful because when you have muscles that your body can't connect with or engage, well then yes, the motion is going to be compensated and limited and not feel supported. But once people start getting that foot muscle activation techniques, then that whole foot is ready to be strengthened. It's like ready to actually receive strengthening, right? So that really leads us to step number 2 is make sure you are actually strengthening your feet. Like the feet are like totally an area that people like wake up each morning and just expect to work, where it's not like that in other areas. It's like, oh yeah, I've got a bad hip or a bad knee, but like everyone's got feet like this. No, a lot of people have feet like yours, but not a lot of people are strengthening their feet. So your feet are completely covered in muscles, and to keep any muscles that live anywhere in your body, including the little ones of your feet, need to be regularly stimulated, regularly challenged, regularly worked. So really including all the motions of the feet and toes will help you to keep these muscles and motions strong. So if you think about like things like a calf raise or an anterior tib lift, which you're like lifting your toes up, turning your foot in and out, making sure you're scrunching your toes and lifting your toes. So thinking about more than just, what you get in PT where you're like crunching up a towel. We want to be seeing a more comprehensive look at strengthening the feet in terms of like foot exercises.
Exactly. Step number 3 is to start to do some things barefoot. And we're not talking about running barefoot, but even just standing. Just standing in your kitchen, standing around your house. You don't have to be moving, but just practice having your feet and the muscles of your feet have to control your entire body weight, not rely on, external support or anything like that, okay? And if you're hearing this and you're thinking, okay, well, I do spend a lot of time barefoot, but my feet are still giving me issues, it's probably because you haven't done step number 1 yet, which means, yes, you are spending a lot of time barefoot, helping to get those muscles stronger, but it's only strengthening the muscles that are already working well, which is why step number 1, muscle activation techniques, is so important, because you can get all the muscles of your feet function well. And then when you go and you do, when you spend time barefoot, standing, walking, very low level activities, then now all of a sudden you have the opportunity to get all the muscles of your feet stronger, which is just going to help progress you even faster.
That's right. So not only progressing like the time that you're spending barefoot, but you also, number 4, you want to progress your shoe wear or your inserts. So think about what you currently are wearing. And instead of thinking, yeah, so I shouldn't wear that, I should wear a barefoot shoe, right? We already talked about that. We're not going like 360. You want to think like, what's like one little baby step that I could do to remove support from my shoe? And then practicing having that. Maybe you're good with just, hey, I have a supportive shoe and an insert. I can just take the insert out and wear the supportive shoe for a little while. And then my feet will get accustomed to that. And then I can find a supportive shoe, but less supportive. And then I can find whatever is the next level. So you have to assess what you're currently wearing. The other thing you can do if that is too big of a step is to just spend time doing, like, if you're going to take the insert out, if it bothers you, then just spend 5 minutes a day, without the insert in, and then put it back in. So making sure that you are progressing your shoe wear so that it is progressing in the right direction and in the direction of strength and function.
Now, the thing with these last 3 steps, and in particular the last 2 steps where you're doing stuff barefoot and then you are progressing your shoe wear, in this process, it is totally within the realm of possibility that your feet feel a little bit sore. Your feet feel a little bit tired. Just like when you start progressing yourself, with your leg lifts or your upper body lifts or your core lifts or whatever, like your core might get a little bit more fatigued. Your core might get, a little bit sore, might feel a little bit tired, and that's okay. It's okay to feel like, oh yeah, my foot muscles, they're starting to work a little bit, right? They're starting to have a little bit more fatigue in them. That's how they're going to get stronger. That is how they are going to get better conditioned. What you want to keep tabs on is making sure that fatigue and that tiredness and that working feeling doesn't turn to pain. Doesn't turn into, like this sharp heel pain. It feels like, I'm starting to get some plantar fasciitis. It feels like my bunion is flaring up. It feels like I'm starting to get shin splints. Or, it feels like, my Achilles is getting really tender, like I'm getting some tendonitis around my Achilles. That is what we don't want, right? So we need to make sure that we are progressing your system, but not so quickly or so rapidly that you're experiencing all these negative things. So as with any exercise, any progression, fatigue and feelings of your muscles working, thumbs up. That's good. All right. What we don't want to feel is the pain in the joints, the pain in the tendons, the pain in the fascia, like with plantar fasciitis. That's the stuff that we want to avoid. And again, this also speaks to why doing something like muscle activation techniques is so important and so helpful, because it's going to give you the best opportunity to be able to do these other 3 steps of the foot exercises, the standing and walking barefoot, and the progressing issue wear with minimal issue.
That's right. And I think the best combination is to be working on all 4 of these and regularly getting MAT. So number 1, making sure you're regularly getting MAT, because what it is, if you're going to try to change your body, whether it's through workouts or what we're talking about today, like strengthening your feet, which is basically your progressing workouts for your feet, kind of, is that you're exposing the area to stressors, right? Stressors meaning something your body's not used to. Hey, I'm not used to walking barefoot through my house. I'm used to wearing house shoes. Or, hey, I'm not used to wearing this type of shoe. I'm used to wearing that type of shoe. So it's like you're regularly exposing your body and your system to this stressor that you desire to have. And then you go get tuned up with MAT. And then you go back and you expose it to this new stressor, and you go back and get MAT, because that's how your system progresses. That's how your muscles progress. It's like, hey, if they don't like if they're never exposed to the situation that you want them to be able to handle, they won't learn how to handle that situation. So it's a really good like kind of cycle, a really good combination to be doing your foot exercises, doing some of your barefoot walking, progressing your shoe wear, and then regularly getting those MAT check-ins.
So your feet are designed to be completely supported by the muscles of your feet. In fact, so much so that the supportive shoes, the orthotics, and inserts, in an ideal world, would be completely unnecessary. But the truth of the matter is your feet probably are not at a place right now to go without those things, especially if you find that those things bring comfort and relief to your feet, okay? If they do, that's a sign that the muscles of your feet likely are not strong enough and likely not well conditioned enough to handle what you're doing on a daily basis. But that does not mean that they can't get any better. In fact, there's a lot of things they can do to get stronger, to get better conditioned, but it takes a consistent effort on your part. In our experience, the progression that works best for people is when we start, number one, with muscle activation techniques. Two, we start to add in specific foot exercises to strengthen the feet, while also helping them to start to do a little bit more standing and walking barefoot, as well as starting to progress their shoes and whatever kind of inserts they're wearing to decrease that kind of external support. Not only does that allow the muscles of their feet to get stronger and better conditioned, it also ensures that all the muscles of their feet are functioning well to support their foot as a whole. So if this is something that you are interested in starting to have done with yourself, that's exactly what we can help you do at our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg, using muscle activation techniques. All you need to do to see our availability and get our schedules, go to our website, www.matschaumburg.com. There's a big green button you can click that says Get Started, and you can schedule yourself for your initial MAT consultation and assessment. So thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We always appreciate your eyes on YouTube, your ears on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Your attention is extremely valuable to us. It is not something that we take for granted whatsoever. If you wouldn't mind sharing this with somebody that is either having issues with their feet or is not really sure how to go about helping their feet get stronger and function better, share this with them so they can hear the plan that we lay out and they can start implementing within their own life to help them do just that. If you wouldn't mind leaving us a rating and a review wherever you consume our content, it always means the world to us when you do. Well, thank you so much again for your time and attention. We are wishing you a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.
This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlie Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.